Lovecraft Easing videocast and podcast. It's March the 5th, 2017. And no guest today. We're just going to talk about whatever pops into our heads, which is probably pretty dangerous. Prizes today, we've got a copy of this, The Night Ocean, by Paul Lafarge. And it's too long to read the synopsis now, but Google it or look it up on Amazon. And it's quite an interesting book. A lot of people have praised it, and it comes out on March the 7th, I believe. So we're going to give away a copy of that, and then I have one more copy of this DVD box set from Gwen and Brian Callahan at the HP Lovecraft Film Festival, which has Best of 2014, Best of 2015, and Classics Volume 1 and Volume 2, which you have this, Kelly, don't you?
No, I want that one. I'm putting my name in.
Oh, you do, huh? Okay.
I got a copy.
I don't think you're eligible, Kelly.
How dare you?
Panelists are eligible. That has long been established.
Oh, really?
Why don't we do introductions? If you want to pass on a topic to the show or just want to tell us you're enjoying the show, email is lovecrafteasing@gmail.com. If you're not enjoying the show, don't email us. So, and you're probably not listening anyway. So, let's start with Kelly and work our way over. Kelly, introductions.
I'm Kelly Young. I am the executive editor of Strange Eons magazine.
Excuse me, Matt.
Fucking asshole.
I'm Matt Carpenter. I edit some stuff sometimes.
This is why they don't want me on panels anymore. At the cons. Mike Griffin.
Hi, I'm Mike Griffin. I'm fiction writer, short stories, and just recently a novel.
And you have headphones on now.
I put on headphones because you were shaming me.
Oh, no, that was Kelly.
Yeah.
Actually. Pete.
Well, what? Pete Rollick. I drive I don't even know what I drive anymore. Writer, author, editor, big dick most of the time.
Nice.
That's right. You're editing a new anthology. We'll have to talk about that later.
Please no.
Philip. Okay, we won't.
Philip Fracassi, screenwriter and fiction writer.
And Rick.
Rick Lay, writer.
And I'm Mike Davis, Lovecraft Easing, editor, publisher. So we got a variety of topics. The latest, I think a good thing to talk about would be the latest books by authors in this circle. Not in this circle talking here, but in the weird fiction circle. Why don't we start with Mike Griffin's got a new book out. So it's a novel.
Yeah.
Why don't you talk about that, Mike?
Okay. So yeah, I have a new novel out. It came out. I'm drawing a blank on my own release date. I think it was February 24th.
It was a week ago Friday, yeah.
Yeah. Came out from Journal Stone. It's called Hieroglyphs of Blood and Bone. And new. It's a story set in the area here in the Northwest in Portland, and basically follows a guy who gets from his normal sort of suburban life, gets pulled into this things he's seen and encountered that are out along this river when he goes fishing one time.
How would you categorize the book? Is it general horror, or is it weird fiction, or
it's somewhere
something else?
Yeah, somewhere in the middle there. It's usually easier for me to categorize my own work after I've heard other people talk about it more, and this one's just out. So I don't categorize my stuff intuitively, I guess. I probably would say it leans more toward weird or psychological horror.
So, can you give us a synopsis of the plot without spoiling it?
Yeah. Well, I started to. So it's basically a guy who has reached early middle age, been married his entire life to one woman, and unexpectedly finds himself divorced. So ends up having to sort of scramble to find a life for himself, and rents a room from a coworker in a houseboat along the river. A much younger roommate who wants to go out and have fun and party all the time and pick up women, and he has a hard time getting with this lifestyle and doesn't really know a way forward. So his friend takes him fishing, and when they're out fishing in the river, he encounters something out there. Thinks he sees something out there that kind of captivates his imagination and makes him start going on his own out there trying to find what he thought he saw, and gets obsessed with basically a woman that he's seen out there along the river.
Well, now we all know that writers hate the question, where do you get your ideas? But I think they don't hate a more specific question, like, where did you get the idea for this particular book?
Yeah, where do you get your ideas?
Yeah, where do you get your ideas?
I do hate that question.
for this book, we'll go there.
Yeah, but for me, my ideas, I tend not to get one idea that's for the whole ball of wax. I tend to have an idea for a character and an idea for kind of a setting or a conflict, and kind of mix these different elements together. So I did have years ago an idea for a similar story that had to do with this guy who went fishing and encountered something along this river. And that was actually inspired by a river that I actually went to. When I was in college, I did a filmmaking internship that had to do with following around a filmmaker who made instructional fishing films. And I got to spend a lot of time along rivers watching and listening. And it was really kind of interesting seeing some of the private rivers we went to, private sections of river that were owned by a guy, say a wealthy guy that had a bunch of acreage, and nobody could fish on this section of river except himself and his friends. That was sort of one inspiration. So this is something that goes back to, say, 1988 or something, when I did my internship. And just it has a mix of some other things, real life relationship things from my own history, and the kind of everybody's been through a bad breakup and scrambled afterward, probably to try to get their footing again.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say it's autobiographical, but there are bits from my life that are mixed into it to make a kind of a stew, of different elements from different places.
So it's available in print and for Kindle. It's a great Kindle price. Not that the print price isn't great, but it's only $3.95 for the Kindle for anyone interested.
Right. So yeah, almost on the level of an impulse buy. Like when I see people, with the $2.99 book or less, I always just sort of think, what the hell? It's a friend. I'll buy it. And
right.
This is inexpensive that way. So we'll see. Maybe that'll inspire people to pick it up who otherwise don't know me or aren't sure about it. But
and what's the best way for people to buy the print copy? Journal Stone's website or Amazon, or either or?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, you can buy it. If you buy it from Journal Stone, you get the paperback mailed to you, and they will also email you an ebook in the format of your choice. So that's a nice bonus. Amazon, you have the advantage of being able to just immediately, quickly get the Kindle download. And if you have Prime shipping, the paperback is something you can have in 2 days. So I always encourage people to buy stuff wherever it's convenient for them, rather than trying to do what's best for the writer or for the publisher.
As long as they're buying the book.
Yeah, buy it and read it, and if you like it, say something about it. That's the best thing you can do.
So actually, this is in the very recent times, you've had quite a bit of work put out there. Your new fiction collection, and then this novel. That's being really pretty active for not being a full-time writer kind of guy.
Yeah, and in between, I had that novella from Dim Shores too. So that was really 3 books in a year.
Any things on the horizon for us?
Well, there's always a backlog.
Yeah, this isn't enough. Can you do some more?
That's the Philip's holding up an ideal retreat there, which if you're at all interested in my work and have curiosity about it, it is
Nice.
limited to 200 copies, and I think they're down to maybe a dozen left. So that's one of those that if you might want it at some point, it wouldn't be a bad idea to pick up quickly, because it won't be around that much longer, and then you're stuck.
Tell people how to order that.
Yeah, so Dim Shores is the name of the publisher, and they have a store on the Store NV website, so it's dimshores.storenv.com, or you can just Google Dim Shores store, and it'll come up. Yeah, and so those are $10, I believe, plus postage, and it's only available through the Dim Shores store. Except I heard a secret rumor, which I don't know if I'm supposed to reveal. But
Go ahead.
there might be a few copies held back to be sold at Necronomicon. If you can wait.
All right.
So I was trying to answer a question. What was it? Matt, you asked something about me putting out. It was if I have other stuff coming out. Is what it was.
Oh yeah.
And so other writers will kind of have the same experience I do, which is you have a lot of stuff that you've written that's just in the pipeline and you're waiting for it. So even though I took the longest time off from writing that I ever took when we moved here, I didn't write at all for 3 months. You still have stuff that's in the pipeline that you've submitted and then you're just waiting. So there are stories that have been accepted by anthologies and a lot of other stories that I've written and that have been published that I'd like to have come out in another collection. So there's always stuff and I'm of course back to writing again now that we've moved. So the flow will continue.
All right. So you had
besides the printed word.
I'm sorry, what?
Any other media besides the printed word?
Well, I'm still somewhat involved in electronic music and the record label. I haven't put out any music in a while, but I'm not sure if that's what you're asking. Other media and stuff.
Well,
I don't have
anything like for film or television you got cooking?
No, I haven't done anything like that. We'll see. Maybe HBO will call after we get done with this.
All right.
I'm sure they're watching right now.
HBO is taking notes.
Or listening later.
Yeah.
Yeah. They watch the show. Actually they hate me personally.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, HBO doesn't like me.
Controversial though. Okay, Showtime then.
So you had a couple of suggestions. We emailed each other earlier in the day for a couple of books that other writers in our circle have put out recently.
Yeah.
Want to talk about those?
Yeah. Well, there's obviously the first that comes to mind is Jeffrey Thomas's because it came out the same day as mine. So, and also because it's pertinent because The
Endless Fall.
Yeah, because it came out on Lovecraft Easing Press. So you might be more qualified to talk about it than me. But Jeffrey's, I think we all know Jeffrey, and he's a writer I think many people respect, and I've heard many people say he's underappreciated and deserves to, be read more and seen more. So it's great to see this book coming out. A lot of people talking about it.
Yeah, I do think he's underappreciated. Yeah. I hope that changes. So
he has the respect of his peers, and he does get stories in a lot of anthologies and stuff. But you just want him to be able to get to that next level of awareness of his work and a wider audience.
Yeah, part of the thing is he works and he's a father, a busy father. So it's like he doesn't have all the spare time to go hawk his own wares. It's It's even hard to get him to appear on this dog of a show.
He's going to come on I don't remember the exact day, but in a month or two, he's going to come on and talk about The Endless Fall. So, but Matt, you had a great introduction to this book.
That's why it's selling so well.
I know. That's absolutely the reason, and I appreciate it too. I love getting lost in the world Jeffrey Thomas creates and can empathize with the difficulties his characters face because they are just so real. I envy those of you making your first acquaintance with this author from the introduction by Matthew Carpenter. So, yeah, pick it up. I appreciate everyone who's bought a copy. I know Jeff does. He's very excited about how well it's selling. So, and, we all like money, but I really, really enjoy seeing how excited Jeff is about the sales. So he deserves it. He really does. Mm-hmm. So yeah, The Endless Fall. We'll probably do some giveaway copies sometime in the next month or two. Definitely we'll do it on the episode that Jeff's on. So, all right. So what else do we have out? We've got The Night Ocean, which is a prize.
I just ordered that book. I heard great things.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
It's beautiful hardcover, by the way.
Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah. The Time Eater, which Mike Griffin reminded me of, by Aaron J. French.
Right.
It's a cosmic horror short novel. I don't think it's a novella. I think it's a novel length. When Roger Burrow receives an unexpected call from a mysterious woman, he is summoned into the past by news that an old college friend is dying. When he encounters James Steiner again, the floodgates of his unconscious becomes unlocked. Of memories and fears he has worked hard to forget, but that's not all. Their reunion also unearths a secret, a ritual from their shared past that awakened an entity so vast, so outside of space and time, that it shattered their youthful reality. Now that entity is back. So I have not had a chance to read this yet.
You know,
Like
whenever I get a call from a mysterious woman, it's usually about an unpaid bill or something. It's never.
Yeah, I don't think it's a woman.
Great story. Geez.
I don't think it's a woman. I think it's some kind of really angry god of some sort, but I haven't read the book yet.
Oh, okay.
So, like all of us, I think my to be read pile is very large.
Yeah. And that one came out from Journal Stone, so it's available the same way mine is, Amazon or journalstone.com.
Right. So what else we got? Pete, you were going to talk about one that you just read.
Yeah. So I took a break I took a little break from reading anthologies and 4 anthologies and read Mary Sangiovanni's new book, Chills. It's a short novel. I read it in a couple days. I really enjoyed this. I picked it up because I thought it might be a covert Athakwa novel, or Ithaqua novel. I say Athakwa, you say Ithaqua. We can't call the whole thing off. But it's much more than that. It is a Lovecraftian novel because it's got some extra-dimensional alien deities and things outside time and space trying to claw into this universe, but it's not related at all to the Lovecraft mythos. And this is a tight little, very reminiscent of Stephen King's the one on Big Little Tall Island with the Winter Storm.
The perfect, or not?
Yeah,
Perfect
I know.
Storm of the Century.
Storm of the Century.
Thank you. Very reminiscent of that. It takes place in a small Connecticut town, and there's a couple murders, and then the snowstorm hits, and then there's more murders. And
I've said this before, but I love stories that revolve around weather, especially storms, and especially winter storms. So I've got to pick that up.
Yeah, there's a little section in here where it's, the cultists are taking advantage of the storm, and the one cultist is like, no, the storm is part of the ritual. So it's a definite tie-in with weather as a main character, which I kind of like too. Setting is important.
Hey Pete, what is the L on the top right corner of that cover?
Good question. Let's see.
Is it part of the design?
It's a Lyrical Underground. It's part of Kensington Publishing Group.
I see.
So that's the publisher. Okay.
I'm going to pick that up. It sounds interesting.
It was good. And then it ties into the rest of her work. So she's building a universe.
Bless you.
Sorry.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
He's allergic to the book.
I'm allergic to right. Oh, my God. My house is plague central. Since January 20th, there's not been a single day where some member of my household has not been sick. And it's just
not
ridiculous.
Good.
Yeah. My office has sent me home with a laptop and said, if you have anything on Monday, you are not to come to work. So
that's kind of the opposite. That's the opposite of where I work.
Well,
you're not dead. Get here.
Yeah.
And even if you're dead, you better have a good excuse.
Yeah.
I feel like Pete's office maybe just found a good excuse to get him out of there.
Yeah, it's kind of different when they don't actually like seeing you.
Right.
Hey Pete, will you restate the author's name for that book, please?
Mary Sangiovanni. And I hope I'm getting that right. My Italian's not good.
I posted it on the web page.
Yeah.
And the title is Chills.
Chills.
Chiller, right?
Chills. Just chills.
Chills.
Mary
Chiller's station.
Yeah.
All right.
And,
we're gonna.
Yeah. Go ahead.
We're going to take advantage of this a little bit later on some other topics, but someone just commented on the chat page. I need my daily dose of Rick's knowledge. I have to have Google open just in case he has a reference that I am not familiar with. So you got a lot of fans, Rick.
Okay, you want me to throw something in there here?
Sure, why not?
It's not new. It's just something I discovered I think I found a book which is probably reading it is equivalent to reading the Necronomicon if it really existed. It drives you crazy. There's a book called, it was originally called The Chance of Mal Doro. It's by a French author from the 19th century. Lovecraft mentions him in Medusa's Coil. Something like the Count de Lautremont. And it reads like the writings of a madman. And it has been mentioned as being very Lovecraftian in that Story Wisdom book that came out. Mm. Not the one was not the auction one, the original Story Wisdom anthology.
Right, Story Wisdom, yeah, with Alan Moore's short story that, yes, and William S. Burroughs was in there too.
Right. Well, if you read this, it's got it had some weird thing where God gets attacked by an octopus. It's got people having sex with sharks. It's a well-written, deranged book, and I'm just saying, I'm reading this. It's like, this is what I think, you were supposed to get the feeling was when you read The King in Yellow and the Necronomicon. I feel like I'm reading an insane. I'm entering a realm of insanity.
So when they say how you have sex with sharks, do they just answer it very carefully, or what do they say?
Well, the main character has sex with a shark in one scene. That's how they get into it.
So you're taking full advantage of your retirement, I see.
Yeah.
It's Shark Week.
Shark Week on the Museum podcast.
There haven't been any Sharknadoes in the book yet, but good. I have. I'm only halfway through it.
So, title and author of this again?
Mal Doro. If there's a Penguin edition called Mal Doro and Poems by the Count de Lautremont, I think is how you say his name.
Wow, how did you even stumble across this?
It was mentioned in Medusa's Coil.
Oh, right. Or
at least the writer was.
You said.
There was some footnote by S.T. Joshi saying he wrote this book called...
Oh, there's a Wikipedia entry.
That's surrealism.
It's a major thing. It's a major classic of the early weird. Big time.
Yeah.
That I've never heard of.
I mean, but it's a really bizarre novel. And, and I sort of Lovecraft the moment they had an octopus attack God. Flying octopus type creatures. So I'm thinking. I'm reading the mind of my listeners, Rick, and right now they're saying, "How do you spell the title?"
All right, hold on. I'm gonna post it. I'll send it to Matt.
I just posted it, but it's not showing up for some reason.
Yeah, but for those listening later who aren't on the Facebook group,
La Chance de Maldoror, which is LES La Chance CHANTS.
Yeah.
De Maldoror, MALDOROR.
But if you want to pick up a good Kindle edition, it's Maldoror and Poems.
That's the Penguin version, yeah.
That's the Penguin version, yeah.
That's found it. Yeah.
60 verses, jeez.
No thanks.
It's a long. That's what's taken me a long while to read it.
And let me get. Are you reading it in the original French or?
No, I'm reading it in English. I'm reading it in English. Okay. Well, you see, I was reading that. I was in the middle of reading that, and then I got a new novel by Joel Pulver, Traffic Was Autumn, which is a King in Yellow novel, which is great. But it was hard to go back and forth from one to another.
Well, I learn something new every time I host this show, I'll tell you that.
Why do we have Rick on? Because it just means I have to spend more money.
But when you're on, I have to spend more money.
Oh, okay. So.
All right. So Journal Stone has been quite busy lately, correct, Philip?
Yeah.
Seems, because now we're going to mention our third Journal Stone book. Behold the Void is coming out, what, in a week?
Yes. My collection comes out March 10th, Friday, March 10th.
With an introduction by Laird Barron.
Introduction by Laird Barron. Yep, 9 stories, about 100,000 words. Pretty good sized book. Alter and Mother, which have already been released as chapbooks, are in the book, in the collection. Very, very, very slightly modified, as us writers like to do. We like to tweak when we can.
So those of us who got the chapbooks now have to get this book too.
Right. And I'm excited about it. It's I'm having a launch event here in Los Angeles at the Last Bookstore and on Friday night, and it's available in hardcover and paperback and ebook, which is cool. And it's as a matter of fact, some people who have been ordering the paperback through Amazon have already received the book via some sort of glitch in the timing. So somebody posted about it, posted a picture of it, and I was like, I don't even have it yet. I haven't seen it. So it's kind of fun for them, and it's cool to see it out in the wild. So I'm excited. It's I think it'll be a lot of fun. If you enjoyed Mother and Alter, it's more along those lines. I classify the stories as supernatural thrillers. They tend to dip and dive into horror and the weird quite a bit, depending on the story. But everyone's kind of unique. Everyone has its own little trademark. So I'm very excited about that. And then I have another novella coming in May, also from Journal Stone, called Saculina, which is a horror, straight up.
You and Griffin are working at the same speed, it seems.
Yeah, trying to keep up with Mike.
Just a couple of powerful geniuses at work.
It's a goal we all have, yeah.
I want to show this off, not so much to pimp myself, because this story is in the collection, but this is a knockout book that just came out from Aegeus.
Murder Ballads?
AEUS, press, called Murder Ballads. It's a limited edition of 375 copies. That's the end papers there.
Oh, wow.
August. Yeah. Illustrated throughout. And the TOC in this thing is, Reggie Oliver, Rhys Hughes, Daniel Mills, Lisa Hannett, Helen Marshall, Timothy Jarvis. It's an outstanding. Angela Slatter. Outstanding collection. Available through Aegeus Press's website.
What's the theme?
Murder ballads. All the stories are based on
people who kill people and they sing while they do it.
Primarily Victorian era murder ballads. My story is based on the historical figure Amelia Dyer, the baby. They called her the baby farmer, which is the title of the story.
She's based on actually existing songs like Sam Hall or
exactly. Okay. Yeah. So, but I think it's worth picking up for those who are in the market for who are like that kind of literary horror. It's a really beautiful book, and the stories inside are, mine aside, are amazing.
So Google ADS Publishing and then Murder Ballads, and people will probably find it that way.
Aegeus Press. So it's EGA.
Aegeus Press.
Yeah, EGAEUS Press.
Oh, okay. All right.
So, Phil.
Yes, sir.
You don't probably know this, but my background is marine biology and aquaculture.
So you know what Saculina means then.
Yes.
So I'm just making sure I got the connection.
Yeah, yes. I was about you weren't going to get away with this. I was going to ask about it too, because it's a parasite.
Exactly.
But
parasitic.
It's the name of an Italian girl, and it's a parasite.
It's it's about a subspecies of parasitic creatures that emerge from the abyss, and while a group of men are out in a fishing boat, and it's a lot of fun.
Okay.
It's not your traditional creature feature from the sea. It's that's a little more of the creepy crawly variety. Okay. And parasite does play into it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
It's a fun one. I'm really excited about that one to come out. And that's not in the collection, so it'll just be the standalone novella.
And Philip, in Murder Ballads, the story there, that was actually the inspiration for Santa Paws 2, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
I'm actually hard at work at Satan Paws 3, The Return. Return of the
really? I mean, it's okay.
I believe it was Sean Thompson. I mentioned because I did an interview recently with Muzzleland, and I believe it was Sean Thompson that referred to it as who came up with the tagline "Christmas will." Actually, can't remember now. Something to the effect of "Christmas will be coming in even more red" or something to that effect. It'll be even more red. It'll be even more red this year at Christmas or something to that effect. Yeah, that's not really happening. That's not real. But,
did I read that Jack Ketchum read your upcoming collection, the Unquiet Void?
I don't know. Did you read that? That'd be cool.
I think I did. Didn't he blurb the book?
He blurbed my novella, Fragile Dreams, which he enjoyed.
Okay.
And
that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, he did. He did read the collection. I know he read it. I don't know what he thought of it, but I know he enjoyed Fragile Dreams. So hopefully he dug the collection as well. I do have some nice cover blurbs from Robert Moore, Ronald Malfi, Paul F. Olson. So some guys whose work I really like. When I ask for blurbs, I tend to go to writers that I personally like and who I think would like the stories, versus just going for the big names randomly. And Paul Olson, I thought, had one of the better collections of last year, a book called Whispered Echoes, A Cemetery Dance. I really, really loved that collection. And Ronald Malfi is a great novelist of horror. And Ralph Robert Moore is no secret, is one of my favorite writers. So was really excited to have them associated with the book in that way.
All right, so The Unquiet Void, available from Journal Stone by Philip Fracassi.
Behold the Void.
Behold the Void. I'm sorry, I'm thinking of something else. Sorry, I have too many books in my head, Philip.
Yeah, no, it's okay. The Unquiet Void sounds kind of nice too.
No, whatever. Nobody really cares, Philip.
Now I'm rethinking the whole thing.
I care.
Mike cares.
I want to care, but
so this what else we got? Well, okay, this one's coming up. So, but this took me by surprise. I didn't know this was coming out. Looming Low.
Yeah.
Who knows anything about that? Griffin probably knows something about that.
I know a bit about it. It's the first it's the first anthology from Dim Shores. It's co-edited by Sam Cowan, obviously, because he runs Dim Shores, and Justin Steele, who most of us know. And it is coming in the middle of the year. I think August. I think it's coming out right around the time of Necronomicon.
Yeah.
It has 25 stories in it. And just last week they announced the roster and the table of contents. So that got a bit of a flare up on Facebook and Twitter with people talking about their acceptances and so forth. So I'm in it. I'm excited to have my story in it, and it's a pretty great list of other writers. Obviously, you can't get everybody in there, but it's got a lot of really good names in it. So
that's a huge anthology.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the word count will be, but I've got to think it's fairly long. My story's big. I think my story's 15,000 words. I know that, I mean, most of them aren't that long, but I can't imagine this is going to be under 120,000 words or something. It's got to be a long book.
Yeah.
And it's coming out. It's going to be the first thing from Dim Shores that's not limited, although I believe there will be a limited hardcover and then a non-limited version. I don't know if it'll be ebook or if it'll just be paperback.
So I asked Sam and Justin, and they're going to come on the show on April 2nd to talk about the book, but I asked them, so what was the theme for the book? And one of them, I forget who, just wrote, I think it was Sam, wrote back, unthemed. But, I mean, what did they say to you when they were asking for stories? What did they say? Just write me anything, or?
They made the point of it being unthemed, and they basically just said they wanted to get a cross-section of who's doing strong work out there in the field right now. And obviously they have a bunch of connections with the people that Sam has already released on Dim Shores and the people that Justin knows through Strange Aeons and through having done Children of Old Leech and just the social interactions and stuff. So I think it was invite only, I'm pretty sure. And I know that very often with anthologies that are invite only, if they want 20 stories, they invite 25 people, assuming that 20 will submit, and then they take them all. But in this case, they invited quite a few more people than they had slots. So there were, a fairly large number of rejections of of people that had been invited. So yeah, so I guess, what's that?
Interesting that you say that, because when you talk to Sam about his chapbook series, he makes a point that he just enjoys weird or strange stories, and he doesn't ask for specific themes.
Right.
Quite a eclectic collection of stories in the chapbooks.
Yeah, you know, and that doesn't say he has wide open tastes. I know that there have been things that have been submitted to him by writers that he likes, that he said that isn't going to work for me, it doesn't fit. But it's just that I think that they didn't want to restrict it to a narrow theme. They just wanted it to be without a theme, but they wanted to really pick and choose what they liked and fit them together. So yeah, I have this feeling that will be just based on the list of the many respectable names in the book. It'll be a book that'll get a lot of attention this year.
I wonder where the title came from. I'll have to ask them that when they're on.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sam's got that crazy brain of his, so who knows?
That's true. All right, so that'll be out in time for Necronomicon.
Right.
Looming Low.
Yep.
So Secrets of Ventriloquism by John Paget. I think that's been getting a lot of attention lately, hasn't it?
Yeah, that's one that I thought of when you were asking what's new. It's not that new. It came out from Dunham's Manor Press last fall, I think. And because the Dunham's Manor books are somewhat limited, at least at first, I think this book got sort of a wider release later on paperback and on ebook. So even though it's been out for a while, I guess what I'm saying is, seems to be suddenly getting a lot of buzz in the last couple of months. Yeah. It's a book that a lot of people are saying a lot of really good things about, and getting good reviews and getting recommended by some really good people.
So who here has read that yet? Has anyone had a chance to read that yet?
I've read it.
Okay. You want to say anything about it?
It's an excellent book. It's John's stories are I don't know how to classify them. They're experimental in nature to a degree. They have and he'd be the first one to tell you this. They are stories that are probably meant more to be listened to than they are to be read. They have that sort of monologue-esque quality to them, at least some of them. So it does make you feel like you are sort of listening to to somebody almost hypnotically talk to you about these very very strange subjects, and it's great. It's great weird. It's great weird. It's very unsettling. It gets in your head a little bit, the way his style of writing and this kind of stories that he tells. One story, for example, which is probably his more famous story, is literally written out as and I can't remember, it's like 20 steps to ventriloquism, where he literally, the first 3/4 of the story is, and I don't want to give anything away, but basically the story starts out with literally just you reading, like, here's how to be a ventriloquist, and then slowly subtle changes in the mannerism of the narrator, if you will, or of the guide, kind of tend to, so it gets under your skin in a sort of creepy, subtle way. I definitely highly recommend it. And it did just come out as an audiobook as well. So I think at this point you can buy the paperback. I think the hardcovers are sold out. I have one, luckily. Paperback or the ebook or the audiobook.
Was one of those stories in Joe Pover's anthologies?
Yeah, it was in the Legati tribute, Grimscribe's Puppets.
Yeah, that.
I actually learned or got to know who John Paget was because he's the administrator of the Thomas Legati Online forum, which is sort of a top Legati discussion area. And he's a big fan of Legati, and I think makes no secret of being influenced by him and enthusiastic about Legati's work.
I think it was the story that was being discussed. Where was it? 20 Steps Towards Ventriloquism.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and my understanding is, and I just got the book, the hardcover, and I haven't read it yet. I'm unpacking here in our new house. My understanding is that the original version of 20 Steps of Ventriloquism was much longer, and that the version for Grimscribe's Puppets had to be cut way down in order to fit. And I believe that the version in the anthology is the original. Like, not the anthology, but his collection is the original longer version. I may be wrong, but I think so.
Okay. Any other books we need to talk about?
Yes, I have a couple.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, one of these, this author is extremely well known to anybody who loves weird fiction. It's Caitlin Kiernan. And Tor.com does a pretty good job of publishing novellas. I guess it's we've talked about this a little bit. It used to be a very hard length for authors to sell. And now it seems to be a favored one, maybe because publication costs are down or it's easy to put on Kindle. At any rate, this is Agents of Dreamland. And unlike what you might think from reading the title, the Dreamland isn't the Dreamlands, which would go along with her interesting ghouls. It's a sort of a secret government organization. And this is a riff sort of on the shadow on the Whisperer in Darkness. It is something is happening and it's bad, and this secret agent type guy is trying to do what he can to prevent it from spreading any further. And there's another woman who probably isn't really a woman who's got some kind of shadowy influence. And there's distorted time and distorted perception. Very disturbing, and it was really quite a wonderful read. Particularly, I had just, for some reason, reread The Whisperer in Darkness when this came out. It is not expensive. It's available from Amazon. It's from Tor.com. And I think this is really a worthwhile Lovecraftian read.
Okay.
So that's one thing.
That's just a novella, Matthew?
Yeah, it's thin.
So it's like 100 pages. That's pretty thin.
I think it's 128 or something.
Easily read it in an evening or so. Very enjoyable. Disturbing, very Lovecraftian. I liked it quite a lot. But now I got something that's like, as they say in Monty Python, now for something completely different. How many of you have seen this?
Pickman's
Perspectives.
Perspectives.
This is by Sam Dinabinek, who I have no idea who he is. Apparently he published 2 shorter Pickman-related things on Lulu a few years ago, and they're out of print. This is, it's a comic gem. It is basically purported to be a history of Pickman, his participation in the Boston Art Club, who were his antecedents, what did he learn, who did he learn from what happened to him, what happened to Thurber. And it supposedly has his sketchbooks, pictures and photographs from his past. And it's really, first of all, it's a lot of work went into this, and it is really funny.
Is it a newer book then? Is it...
This one just came out. Let me see if I can figure out the date. It's
okay.
I'm not exactly sure when it came out.
But sometime recent.
Very recent.
Okay.
Just for example, they talk about they're interviewing. They've got these recorded conversations, journal entries, newspaper entries. They're all fabrications, of course, about this woman who is the grand dame of the Boston Art Club, and she would like guide young ladies in there and which artists they had to be careful around. And she said, "Whatever you do," I'm paraphrasing. "Whatever you do, you don't go up with Richard Pickman and he asks you to show you his etchings." And they say, "Why?" And she says, "He shows you his etchings." It's almost like reading A Board of the Rings. If you've ever read that satire from National Lampoon, it's almost like reading Board of the Rings for Pickman. They make no bones of the fact that like it's all plagiarized, and like a lot of the art is like hand drawn over real art. That they
really
They even mention your name, Mike.
No, they don't.
Yeah, they do. It's in passing, and they quote this guy named Mike Davis, and it says, not the Lovecraft Easy Mike Davis, the other Mike Davis.
No, they don't. You're making this up.
I'm not making this up. I have been thoroughly enjoying this book, especially.
Mike, you're a social meme.
Oh, no.
Where did you order that, Matthew? Because I can't find it.
I got it from Lulu or if I got it from Amazon. I'll check and.
I can't find it on Amazon, so you probably got it from Lulu.
Yeah, I can't find it on Amazon either.
Pickman's Perspectives. Okay.
Yeah, like roughly twice a year, I go on Lulu, and I do the search for Cthulhu, and there's like 50 pages. And I roll through it and see if there's anything that's worth getting. And because I'm doing this Pickman anthology, oh, this looks interesting. Maybe someone wrote a serious, quote, art book. Remember there's the Pickman's Portfolio from ages ago? They even quote that in here. And they talk about gargoyles and their origins, and it's all just fabricated. And they got pictures from Goya and like what were gargoyles used, and it was used to like spew sewage and hot oil on attacking fanatics from other religious strains, tax collectors, and starving peasants. You know, so
okay. So you got it on Lulu though.
I must have,
Okay.
but really, I'm amazed at the amount of work the guy put into it. And so far, I've been completely entertained.
All right.
Wait a minute. I know how much it takes to entertain you, and you know, the bar is set kind of low.
Yeah, that's true. I'm, you know, just because I liked it doesn't mean you'll like it, but that's just because you haven't got any taste.
Yeah, but I was going to say, but he'd be wrong, right?
Right.
All right. So, no spoilers, okay? But who here has seen Logan? Not my son. You have? You like it, Rick?
Yeah, I liked it very much. But before we get, I've got there's a book we need to recommend.
Oh, we don't need to talk about Logan. I was just curious.
Right.
Go ahead.
Matthew's co-editor at Lovecraft Easy, Alex Kleitner, has been editing megapacks of E. Hoffman Price's fiction. And he's got two, I would say, must-reads if you're into the Lovecraft circle. One is a collection of all Pierre de Troyes. It's E. Hoffman Price's Pierre de Troyes Occult Detective megapack. It was an occult detective that Price created around the same time as Jules de Grandin. Was not influenced by Jules de Grandin. But he battles ghouls and an entity called the Lord of the Fourth Axis, who is sort of the basis for the presentation of Yog-Sothoth and Through the Gates of the Silver Key. So that's one megapack to pick up. In fact, if you get that megapack, you'll find two stories where Umat Tawil, which was an entity in Through the Gates of the Silver Key, appears as a name for two different people.
Wait a minute, Alex has been doing this?
Yeah, Alex has been doing this. I'm not telling you.
He doesn't tell me anything.
So he's got that one. The other one is called Fables, is E. Hoffman Price's Fables of Ishmael, which is all these stories, and they take place in the same universe as the Pierre de Troyes stories. It's about this Kurdish guy named Ishmael who fights the devil in the guise of the peacock angel. And if you really want to understand Dig Me No Grave by Robert E. Howard, you have to read these stories.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'll have to ask Alex about that.
Yeah, they're only like 99 cents. And
Mike just found out his second best girl is stepping out.
No, I mean, I think it's great. I just didn't know about it. I would have helped. I would have promoted it for him.
He's done other ones. He's done other ones as well at free up in price, but these are the two for the Lovecraftian reader.
Yeah, I mean, it's always helpful when you surround yourself with people more talented than you because they make you look good. That's one reason why I have Alex do stuff for me.
So I have a question for Matt.
Yeah.
How you mentioned your anthology. How's that going?
Well, I'm hoping to have an initial read-through completed in about 2 weeks. I've been, this is a lousy excuse, but you talk about how you have a plague house. It's like, I think they should give us bells and shrouds at our house. Ever since about November, on and off, people have just been sick as hell.
Yeah.
And it's very hard when no one can get out of bed or up off the couch to do anything. Barely make it to work, barely make it to school.
Mm-hmm.
That's such a drag.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time. In fact, I've had to, when I'm reading my anthology, I've had to like triple the size of the font because my eyes just won't focus down anymore. This pneumonia / cold I had is just really messing with me.
It's bad. That's all I could say.
Being sick all the time sucks.
Yeah.
So the anthology's going well then?
Who?
Matt?
Yeah, I think we're gonna. I'm looking forward to having a release time in for Necronomicon with a little luck.
Oh, good. All right. So I have a question for Pete.
Yes.
You mentioned your anthology. How's that going?
I asked the publisher to budget for a new set of eyes because I've read things that I should not have read. and
is this a slush pile?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm not going to name any stories because actually some of the stories were really, really good. But we have 3 rules. You need a mythos deity, you need a color, and you need an art form. If you can't hit one of those 3, why are you sending me a story?
Oh yeah.
It's literally the slush pile, and it's like that's what I posted a few days ago. Please don't waste the editor's time. That should be rule number 1. It's just you're not in. I can remember you talking about this, how you would get ghost stories sent to you. And I'm getting the same thing, and story after story after story, and just I'm not even sure why I read this because it has nothing to do with what we asked for.
Or people who get mad at you because they don't realize you don't realize how talented they are, so they get upset at you. Sorry, Matt. What?
If you want a reprint, maybe you could ask John Langan about. Remember his story about the Mask of the Red Death?
Yes.
And he went through the colors of the palace, and I thought that was just bloody brilliant. And I thought when you first put out your request, I thought that just has to be what you're looking for.
It is. And I am surprised at the number of people who have come forward and said, there's no way that we can do anything with this limited theme. And
really?
I just look at him and I'm like, no one has proposed a color out of space story. No one has proposed a synesthesia story, which I think would be fabulous in the right hands. Nobody's proposed a colorblind story, which I think would also be a great idea. And these are just, I think, great themes and ideas that I should be seeing, and I'm just not seeing anything like that. But it's early days yet. What I think I'm really seeing is stuff that people had sitting on the shelf, and they're just, adding a little bit to it and hoping it will fit. So we'll see.
It's early days yet. So what's the title of this anthology, and when will it be out, hopefully?
The Chromatic Court. And I don't know when it'll be out. It'll be out hopefully this year.
Who's the publisher?
18th Wall. And they're not paying. They're not paying much, but they're trying. So
Pete already received an outline for me, which he approved. So hopefully I conform to his standards, or I will conform to his standards when he gets the finished story.
Yeah, and we're open to like 15,000 words. So if you've got a novella,
I probably won't be that long. I'll be surprised. I think I'll probably be about 7 at most.
Okay.
But you're giving me some freedom because I was wondering. If you looked in my outline, I had like a huge flashback, and I didn't want to just make that a summary.
Okay. Yeah, I know. So
All
anyway,
right.
yeah, it's going well. But I think we've got one story already that I'm really happy with.
Okay. So I was going to switch topics now anyway, and Matt just typed that he's got a movie he wants to talk about.
Well, I don't see a trailer out for this yet, but it's like you say, like, are there any mainstream, quote, Lovecraftian type movies coming out?
Mm-hmm.
And there is one, and it might be what they call Cloverfield 3. It's about like the workers or astronauts on a space station, maybe the International Space Station, and the Earth vanishes.
Huh?
Oh.
It's called the God Particle. And it's what they have to do to try to figure out what happened and whether anything can be done about it.
So they're no longer orbiting anything if they're on the space.
Right. Their reality has just been totally altered. And to me, you know, it's a low budget-ish. I mean, relatively, it's $10 million, but it's in the Cloverfield series. The actors are all kind of people I've never really heard of, but it's due out in about 6 months, maybe October.
Well, you know what? I like the idea. I like that premise because if you imagine being one of those astronauts on the space station, and you're up there in space, but you're orbiting the Earth, at least you can see the Earth, right? There's home, and then suddenly it's gone. That's terrifying.
Wasn't there a television series that lasted for a season that had a series of astronauts who witnessed the destruction of the Earth and then jumped back in time to try and save it?
The only one I remember is that old show with Imogene Coco where they went back and they were living like cavemen.
No. This is probably within the last 15 years.
All right. Nothing from
that doesn't ring a bell.
Tell me about the hive mind will remember it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of television shows that may only last one season, I have to tell you how wrong you are about Emerald City, Matt. I just watched the finale. I've watched all 10 episodes now with Danielle. So
I have not been blown away. I gotta say I'm watching it. I don't know.
Mike, what did you think?
I liked it a lot, and then I found out it was a Sean Cassidy creation, which explained why I liked it. But you know, it seems like he's had several other. He had another show that I really liked.
American
10 or 11
Gothic.
years ago. Well, American Gothic, yeah, before. But I was going to say Invasion.
Oh, Invasion, that's right.
Yeah, you remember that?
Yeah, that was kind of fun.
I really liked Invasion. Yeah, I highly recommend it to anybody listening to us right now. Yeah.
I just want to recommend a new superhero show, Legion, on FX. It's been incredible. It's only going to be 8 episodes in the first season.
Yeah, Mike, what do you think of Legion?
I thought it was pretty boring.
I'm with Rick. I thought it was amazing also. I love it.
You know they're making
the first episode, just I don't know, nothing happened until the last 5 minutes, really.
Well, I'll tell you this. When the first episode, I said, I'm either going to hate this or love it. And the second episode made up, got me converted.
Oh, right. Well, okay. Maybe it's on Hulu now, so I can watch it for free. Right. Maybe I'll try the second episode and see if I jump back over to you guys' side of the fence. Sorry, Phil, were you going to say something?
Oh, no, I was going to say, you mentioned it's the Wizard of Oz themed. They just announced that they're in development to make a Wizard of Oz horror movie.
I just saw that today too. I don't know anything other than that. So.
It was just pitched and bought. So it's probably a good year or two away, but they are making it. They did buy the pitch. So they're making it a rated R, supposedly rated R horror movie based on the Wizard of Oz universe. Anyway.
So we get to see Dorothy doing it with somebody, you're saying?
Or maybe there's a lot of violence.
I guess the Scarecrow tries to find a brain the hard way.
Maybe.
Likewise, the Tin Man in the heart.
And maybe the Tin Woodman is anatomically correct.
Yeah.
Dorothy sees the advantages.
Yeah.
Well, back to Emerald City, okay? Yeah, I heard it was pretty divisive. You either loved it or hated it, I guess, like Legion. But you know, this guy has a habit. I have not seen American Gothic. I probably shouldn't admit that on this show because it's uncool. I've not seen American Gothic. I know I need to. But did that end on a cliffhanger? Because he's got a tendency to leave things on a cliffhanger on season 1.
It ended on a cliffhanger, but that was back in the day when you didn't know if your show was going to be canceled or not, and so
you don't know that today either.
So he was getting ready for season 2, and it got canceled.
That's pre-Netflix effect. So.
Well, Invasion ended on a cliffhanger, and I still recommend you watching the show. It's a fantastic show. Ended on a cliffhanger. Emerald City ended on a cliffhanger. I don't know. Starting to think it's a habit of his. But
actually, but it's not fair because there was an HBO series, Deadwood, which everybody loved, and it ended at the end of 3 seasons because HBO just pulled the plug. They thought they'd make a movie, and then they just tore down the sets. So it ended in the worst possible place.
Well, so did oh God, the one set in Florida.
Alphas?
Invasion.
No, cop drama. Glades. The Glades. It ended with the main character got shot, and that was a big mystery, and they never solved it. And that was the end of the series.
Well, that's what happened in Alphas. They didn't want the series to end where it ended.
Same thing with Agent Carter for his comic book fans.
So I think Griffin and Fracassi want to talk about The Expanse and The Exorcist.
Well, I watched The Expanse, which the first season's free, and it's based in the James Corey books. And I thought if you're looking for a space opera, and you don't mind, a little low budge cheese, it really gets going. It's very intriguing. You get involved and you kind of you start with the first couple and then you really get sucked in. And now I'm probably gonna have to spend money to buy season 2. Is the only negative.
I think it's bloody brilliant. It's a great show.
I'm really enjoying it a lot. We're behind. We just started watching it, and we're not done with season 1 yet. But
let me tell you what happens at the end.
Yeah, I'm curious about the ending of season 1. Yeah.
Oh, you read the book?
No.
Books? Oh, no. Okay. I read the book, so I knew what happened. I knew it was coming anyway. But yeah, I recommend that. And I also watched The Exorcist season 1, and it was maybe my expectations were really, really low, but I thought it was commendable. I thought the acting was really, really good, and I thought for the most part, and I thought it had some unique storylines and kind of building a little universe. They're based around this kind of demon infestation, if you will. I thought it was okay. I'd recommend it.
I was going to ask Kelly what he thought of it, and then I noticed him unmute his mic there.
No, I loved it also. I thought it could have been maybe 2 episodes lighter. There was some fill in there that I didn't think needed to be there, but I really liked it. Apparently it was received well enough to get a 2nd season, which is a little disappointing to me because it felt like a very complete story, and I think they can only go downhill from here.
Yeah, well, they were already stretching the story. They were already stretching a very small piece of gum into a very long thread of universe storyline. There's only so much you can do. I mean,
yeah,
there's possessed people, and I mean they're trying to. It's. I hope it doesn't become like the Purge 5, but
Where is that available?
I believe I watched it on I want to say it was on demand. It was free. I think it was either Amazon Prime or Hulu or Netflix.
I was watching it on Hulu while it was happening, but I don't think. Do they keep all of those episodes after a season is gone?
Depends on the show.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's Fox, so whoever has the deal with Fox.
Okay.
And also, as far as we're talking about movies, the movie that's been quite making all the buzz the last couple weeks is Get Out, which I saw. I don't know who's seen that one.
I have not, but I've heard only good stuff.
Tell us about it.
Well, it's Blumhouse, so it's a low budget movie. It's made for about $5 million, and without giving anything away, I don't think the premise is interracial couple, black boyfriend, white girlfriend, and the girl's very rich and comes from a very kind of white bread, wealthy home, and they go for the first visit to meet her parents, and I really can't tell you much more without giving it away, but it's a social commentary to a degree, but I hate to say that because it kind of turns it off. I think it's a horror movie through and through. It's a very creative, very, very intelligent horror movie, and it's incredibly well acted by all the leads, and it's really fun and really creepy. And the director, Jordan Peele, my understanding from an interview he did recently, he's actually going to be making 4 more in what he's calling like a sort of a loosely tied together series of horror films that all have kind of explored different elements of our social reality, prejudices, and whether they be sexual or racial or religious or other. And so I'm kind of curious to see what he does with that. But the film was really, really well done.
Would it be a spoiler to ask you what kind of horror it is?
It's I think the way they describe it, I think the way it's being described is Stepford Wives kind of meets Home Invasion sort of thing. It's not really Home Invasion, but it's pretty old school horror. It's the kind of movie you'd see on maybe late night cable. But it's not it's not body horror. It's not gory, although it is violent. It's more very psychological and very, very creepy. More suggested for the most part until the ending, which they kind of let everything out of the cages, as it were, horror-wise.
The trailer certainly gave off a Stepford Wives vibe.
Yeah, and that's the play, and it's you kind of think you know what's going on, and then maybe you don't, maybe you do, but it's worth seeing. And the only negative is I saw it after reading all the 100% review Rotten Tomato reviews, and after reading all the Facebook reviews that were pouring in for it. So I went to see it waiting for The Sixth Sense, part 2, like this amazing film that was going to kind of blow me out of my chair. And I kept waiting for that next level thing to happen, and it never really happened. But so I was a little disappointed just because I went in overhyped. But it's a very, very solid, low budget horror movie, and probably along with, I know Kelly hated it, but I thought Autopsy of Jane Doe.
What? I loved that. What are you talking
about? You did? I thought you hated it.
No, you suggested that to me. That was probably my favorite movie.
Well, you hated Lights Out. You hated Lights Out.
Yeah, I hated Lights Out.
Kelly and I didn't agree on Lights Out. But Jane Doe and Get Out, are probably over the last 12 months or so, 2 of the better horror movies that have come out. But yeah, definitely go see it in the theater. It's worth your money. It's worth seeing for sure.
Okay.
That's cool.
Well, I got a few questions from listeners, viewers. Here's one. Chad writes, do you think that Lovecraft has had a Tolkien-esque effect on cosmic horror, meaning specifically authors are prone to drawing from Lovecraft's creations, Unspeakable Horrors, Lost Tribes, etc., as opposed to creating original cosmic horror, much like fantasy authors after Tolkien all had to have elves, dwarves, dragons, etc. in their stories?
Can I start on this one?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. If you've seen the really wonderful documentary, Fear of the Unknown.
Mm-hmm.
Interview about 10 prominent authors and editors, including Caitlin Kiernan, Robert Price, Neil Gaiman, about Lovecraft. And I kind of like what Neil Gaiman said about Lovecraft, which was, it was one of those things that when you're starting out, you take it, you play with it, you do your own, then you do your own thing with it, and then you set it back on the shelf for someone else to pick up. And so I think there are many of the better authors who maybe read Lovecraft, maybe when they were cutting their teeth, they wrote something Lovecraftian because they're anthologies that sells, and then they go off on their own hinterlands. You know, they're not, I don't think the best authors in our field feel bound to these tropes. That's not to say that some people don't just love this stuff and revel in it. There are a lot of people, if they can't escape that, then they don't get, they never really find their own voice, I don't think. I mean, what do you think?
Well, I think Ramsey Campbell would be an excellent example of what you pointed out, because he started out mimicking Lovecraft, and then he found his own voice. It became more cosmic horror rather than Cthulhu mythos, even though now he's kind of going back to it because I think he's trying to do justice to themes he did not as well when he was an experienced writer.
Okay. Anybody else want to comment?
I mostly agree with what Matt said. I don't think necessarily Lovecraft is always the training wheels for a horror writer. You know, that you do that for a year or two and then you get good enough to discard it. But I think that, yeah, definitely a lot of to more or less, greater or lesser degrees, writers sometimes like to mess around with those things once in a while. You know, the Lovecraftian tropes and the named gods and things like that, the settings. But I think that most of the interesting, you know, work that's being done now in the cosmic horror field, it might be Lovecraft influenced in some ways, but it doesn't specifically reference, you know, Lovecraftian, what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Pete, I know you're thinking something.
Well, you know, it's kind of true, and there are those of us who just want to write Lovecraftian horror fiction. And never want to do anything else. But that I'm being facetious. Lovecraft is a touchstone. He's not the only touchstone. I spent a good portion of my life just searching out for Cthulhu Mythos stuff at the detriment of other weird fiction writers, which I'm now trying desperately to catch back up on. But a great number of well-established horror writers and science fiction writers and weird fiction writers have retro stories where they've written Lovecraftian pieces or cosmic horror pieces in the Lovecraft vein. John Brunner wrote a great novel called The Atlantic Abomination, which is essentially a Lovecraft story with no Lovecraftian entities in it. But with cosmic horrors in it. Larry Niven has written some. Alan Dean Foster, Sturgeon, you know, a lot of Marion Zimmer Bradley. So it is a touchstone, and people keep going back to it every once in a while. Some people move on. I've written a whole bunch of other stuff recently, and some people keep going back to it. So, yes and no. It's not just a phase.
Okay. Anybody else want to comment before we move on to the next question?
I was just going to suggest the mythos that he created. I never personally have. I never started. I was born out of the Stephen King school more than I was the H.P. Lovecraft school. I think Lovecraft is probably more. It seems to me that there are, obviously, because of the mythos that was created and the spin-off mythos, there's probably more of a library of writers who are attributed to Lovecraft. But I think I think there are other writers who are also cornerstones or touchstones for people. Stephen King would be one for me. But I think the only other comment I was going to make was I don't know, and you guys would know this better than I would, if there is thanks, Mike. If there was another mythos out there since that you would kind of say is sort of a next phase mythos. Laird Barron comes to mind, and his Children of Old Leech. I don't know, you guys being maybe more read in this world than I am, if there are other writers who have sort of created their own category of mythos that sort of become its own thing or spawned off as its own.
Clive Barker has had 2 successes, one with the Hellraiser series,
right,
and also with Nightbreed, both of which spawned comics and anthologies, movies, whatnot. So there's some success there.
F. Paul Wilson.
Yeah, but I'm thinking more where it's expanded to other writers.
Oh, okay.
Where it's gone beyond just the person who created it.
Well, but most of that, they're going to have problems to be copyright.
Right.
Unless the writer lets everybody play in his world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There was this series in Hell that was a shared anthology series. It was sort of a cross between fantasy and horror in the late 90s, I think. Where it was just adventure stories and horror stories and fantasy stories set in hell with famous people as characters. Very Philip Jose Farmer Day World kind of thing.
That's actually
Riverworld.
That's a really good point, Rick, that I guess this shared world, or all of this wonderful stuff that's essentially in the public domain, that everyone can just pull off the shelf and use however they want.
Yeah. How many Lovecraft anthologies would there be if those rights were restricted?
Right.
Well, Tolkien's rights are restricted, and people imitated and paid tribute to Tolkien basically just by imitating and not using the names and not using the places.
Right.
So it's different. It's different in that sense. Yeah, but I mean, you can read. There was a whole industry going in the 70s and 80s, especially, of stuff that was really obvious Tolkien ripoffs.
Well, there were Robert E. Howard ripoffs. There were a lot of Conan ripoffs.
Yeah.
Right.
And Conan and Cull might be good examples of that, because even though it's copyrighted, there have been a lot of Conan Cull stories.
Which were, well, at least the Conan, mainly Conan, it was open. Right. That was because other writers got their hands on it. El Spring to Camp, which is a whole controversy I'm not going to get into. We've now gone back to pure Howard.
Yeah.
I've heard that Stoker's Kid has retroactively got the trademark rights for Dracula, so that should be interesting.
What's the story there? That does sound interesting.
No, I'm just kidding. It's a joke.
I have a comment from the live viewers. Jack Evans says, I have to admit the Weird Company Reanimators by Pete is superb. So.
Aww.
Well, it is superb.
Yeah, it is.
I appreciate that. But I will tell you that of all the things that I've written, the thing that apparently has gotten me the most attention is the story I did for you in Autumn Cthulhu.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because this week I started negotiations to do a symposium, an evening with Pete Rawlik at a local not a local college, but a state college in the state in Florida.
Nice.
Everything's still being finalized, so
they should just broadcast the easy.
Well, yeah.
Or they could watch the show. Yeah.
I was gonna say we're already doing an evening with Pete Rawlik right now.
Yeah. Is this going to be recorded, Pete?
I don't know, because we're still negotiating.
Well, why don't you ask that in your negotiations?
Okay. And yeah, it was based solely. They want me to read the piece that I wrote for you in Autumn Cthulhu, and then they want to take questions from students and the public.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's a great story too.
Once again, it's something I stepped outside of my comfort zone to do. So, yeah. And
so here's an I'm sorry, you weren't done.
No, just on that note, I've got to leave in 5 minutes. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So here's an interesting question that I'm glad that Mike Griffin is here for, and everybody else too, of course. John Nelson says, I think an interesting topic would be setting in regards to weird fiction and horror. Why has New England traditionally lent itself as a setting to horror, and why does the Pacific Northwest seem to be taking its place lately? In other words, how does the geographical location of horror affect the story? What do you guys think are some underused or overused locations and settings? Whoever wants to take that first.
Well, I'll just start. Just the obvious answer in New England is the Salem witchcraft trials set the whole ball rolling for New England. So that's where we got New England started. I don't know so much about the Pacific Northwest other than, and Mike could probably go more into this, it's just a good remote area in the United States.
Yeah, and it's mainly because all the good writers live here.
Of course, yeah.
No, it's I don't know it. Rick might have the right idea but it's not. We're not the only place with wide open remote areas. So yeah, you wonder why. And most of the writers who've written things set in the Pacific Northwest either live here now or lived here before. Like say Laird Barron, a lot of his work is set in especially in Washington. But that was because he lived there. And S.P. Muskowski's, Skaloot Cycle mostly is, I think is all set in Western Washington and then in Astoria, which is in Northwest Oregon. But again, she used to live here. She doesn't live there now. But, so people are writing about a place that they've been and maybe a place that was formative for them. It's hard for me to say, if I'm writing about a lot of stuff set here in the Northwest because I live here or because it's the most interesting place to write about.
Well, it's not Iowa, but yeah, it's okay.
Does it also have to do with the sort of the evolution of the United States and the focus of where publishing is willing to take authors from? I mean, I'm going down this idea of that the reason that a lot of New England writers got published early on is because that's where a lot of education was focused.
Yeah.
Well, that's somethingism. I won't stand for that. That's.
I was just having a very similar conversation about sort of noir stories. Like you could say they started in New York and then they shifted to California, and then they came to Florida for a while, and
right.
then they were in Chicago, and now they're back in like the Pacific Northwest or Texas.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of zeitgeist of that genre has moved around the country a lot because for a lot of reasons. But I think a lot to do with where publishers are willing to look at for stories.
Yeah, and also, Laird Barron is a great example. So he may be the most influential of the writers currently working in weird fiction and horror, I think. You could at least argue that. And he wrote, like I said, a large number of stories set in this area. So maybe there are people who even don't live here, but who might write a story set in, let's say, somewhere in the mountains of Oregon or in Washington or Idaho because of Laird Barron. That's possible. Like you said, a detective story set in L.A., that becomes a thing. People write toward their influences.
But it's interesting that Laird Barron just basically published his Alaska stories.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. He lived there before the Northwest, but addressed it later. Right.
Now I wonder, are his crime novels going to be set more to the East Coast where he is now?
He's written more of those upstate New York stories. Well, I guess I shouldn't say that. That's he's given a sense that that's something he's going to address. So, but it's interesting though that he addressed the Northwest while he was living there and didn't address Alaska until later, and he left Alaska quite a while ago.
By the way, all right, thank you, Pete.
See you, Pete.
All right.
By the way, happy birthday, Laird Barron.
Yeah.
I think it's his birthday.
Yes.
So. All right. Any other comments on that before we move on?
Well, Actually, the one area that you didn't mention, of course, is Sesqua Valley. So if you're talking about environs in the Northwest, that's one of the most, one of the first and one of the most unique William Pugmire setting.
Right.
I thought a lot of the reason the focus was on New England initially was before people went off in their own various directions. Again, everyone's using Lovecraft's locales in their weird fiction, so it's easy to write a story set in Arkham. And Lord knows how many Innsmouth stories we have just because of the shadow over Innsmouth. You know.
All right, so
but I'm saying it goes back to Nathaniel Hawthorne, who was descended from the judge of the witchcraft trials, young Goodman Brown, and stories like that. Black Man in the Woods.
Mm. Well, I'm no prognosticator, so I don't have a comment on this next question. But David Del Cole says, what do you folks see as the literary trends in horror? Past, present, future for cosmic and Lovecraftian. He names a bunch. Let's stick with cosmic and Lovecraftian horror genres. Weird fiction, let's say.
My thought is, it's like right now, Cthulhu still sells. So Lovecraftian anthologies, lots of people love to cut their teeth on this stuff, and a lot of it sells. So for at least in the near term, like say the next several years, there's still going to be quite a few Lovecraftian anthologies, novellas, novels coming out. Like Caitlin Kiernan's latest book, she can't get away from it. You know, it's like Ramsey Campbell coming back to it a little bit. But I think the trend for me that I find the most exciting are all these authors maybe understanding they've read Lovecraft and they're interested in cosmic type horror. They aren't devoting themselves to his themes or his creations and locales. They're going off on their own stuff and finding their own degree of weirdness. That to me is the most interesting trend.
Anybody else?
We're also getting away from the standard troves of the mythos in that I don't think everybody is creating their own god and mythical book of black magic anymore. Or at least if they do, it would be like Laird Barron did, was that book which is sometimes a book and is sometimes a website. And
is that the Black Guide or something like that?
Yeah, I was going to say Laird and John are. Langley.
Yeah, but they took it in. They took it into the internet realm. So I mean, if you use the existing paraphernalia of Lovecraft, you got to modernize it.
All right. Anybody else?
Well, yeah, that's a tough question to answer easily. Where the different subgenres are going. There's so many, and what's changing in publishing, allowing people to make micro presses and self-publish, means that it's only splitting off more and more subgenres and subgenres. So things are fragmenting and specializing.
I also think that, and this isn't really Lovecraft specific, but more toward the weird conversation, is I do feel like that there is a very strong literary push with some of the new weird. And what I mean by that is that it's bleeding into non-genre almost. I mean, there are a million examples of purely literary stories from the past 50 years that you could now go back and reclassify as weird under the current banner as it is. And similarly, I think there's a lot of content being created now under the banner of weird that is, to me, no different than a John Cheever story or a Joyce Carol Oates story. I mean, although she tends to dip in horror, but it's not. A lot of it's not even horror anymore. A lot of it's not even genre anymore. So it's blurring a little bit. I don't know how easily the genres are going to be classifiable moving forward over the next 5 years. I think it's going to become harder and harder to differentiate what's just what's fiction and what's weird and what's horror. I mean, Annie Proulx, you could go back and call a lot of her stories weird. I mean, John Cheever could call his stories weird. Hemingway, you could call some of his stories weird. I mean, so I have noticed that the more I read, the more widely I'm reading some of the new writers. I do sometimes find myself, wondering why this would be classified as horror at all, or even within a subcategory of horror at all, when it's really not. It's just a weird story, a strange story where something ambiguous happens, and it's not necessarily all that is scary or frightening or even have any thriller aspect. It's not pulpy. It's just kind of a story, So that's trend icing. I think there's going to be some grayer and grayer area as to what if weird is going to continue to be a subcategory of horror, or if weird is going to start being a subcategory of literary fiction.
Why does weird lend itself? Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just going to say, my stuff I think is horror. I think Mike's stuff is horror, and but I do also think that it's more, speaking for myself and as a reader of Mike's work, for example, Mike Griffin, I think is literary horror versus maybe some of the more straight Jack Ketchum, Brian Keene, down the middle, page turner kind of scare fests.
So you're saying my work's boring?
No, I put you and I in the same category.
Okay, good.
If you're boring, I'm boring.
Well, yeah. No.
But that's all I meant, is that that's a direction I don't know what the answer is.
What about noir? Why does the weird lend itself so easily to noir?
I think it's because, going off of what the last couple of comments were saying, a lot of what we do in the weird and in some categories of horror is just psychological kind of a psychological edge, that thriller or suspense or something weird's going on feeling, or psychological extremity. And the same goes for noir. Noir is about getting yourself in trouble, trying to reach for something that you shouldn't, overextending and getting in trouble, or being greedy, or being so to me they're not that different. There are tropes that we think of in noir, with night and crime and guns, but they're actually pretty similar. I mean, you could really easily, a writer could really easily move between those things.
I mean, there's always been a tie between horror and noir, or at least there has in the last 50 years. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a natural extension.
Well, in noir, the world is controlled by corrupt society, and in cosmic horror, the world is controlled by a corrupt universe that is incomprehensible to some degree. So you're a puppet in either universe.
What we don't need are any more Detective from Hell books. We need a nice long break from Detective in Hell books, or from Hell. One subcategory we can take a Xanax on for a while.
So did you guys see Arrival?
Yeah.
I saw it when it first came out in the theater.
So I really, really liked it, but there's an article, this is one of the other questions by Patrick Burdell. There's an article on, I don't know where it's at, why Arrival is an almost Lovecraftian masterpiece. And I don't think it is really. There's, I don't want to get into spoilers for those who have not seen the movie, but it seems more, somebody mentioned it was more Sagan in Contact.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, the thing is that I thought was so well done about it, because I went in knowing nothing about it. I had no pre-anything about it. And I thought, okay, I didn't understand what was happening until like the last 5 minutes of the movie. Maybe I'm not very perceptive. I didn't know what was happening in The Sixth Sense till like the final scenes, okay? But the way that they manipulate time in the movie, I thought was, you could certainly construe that as Lovecraftian. You know, it's not like the aliens were, they're very difficult to comprehend, but it's not like they were inherently evil or indifferent. But the way that the movie addressed the concept of time, I thought was, for me, the key to thinking about it in Lovecraftian terms. Not the shape of the aliens, you know, their tentacles or whatever.
Yeah, the reason I would argue against it being a Lovecraftian movie is I don't think the point of that movie was the universe, the uncaring universe and the greater powers that be, as much as it was about this part. I mean, it's actually a very focused drama about a woman and her, and her trials as a human being over the course of her life than it is about aliens, which I think is kind of the point of the film. So I don't know if that would fall under Lovecraftian umbrella. It's pretty much a story about this scientist and to Matthew's point, how I don't want to give it away, but
yeah,
how what your life can be like were you to have extra abilities and extra sensory abilities. And I think that was really what I took away from it. I really didn't think much about the aliens or the greater universe. I think the takeaway was about this one person and her humanity as it pertained to her daughter and her husband.
And her choices.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And it was very sad in a way, but it was also very hopeful in a way. And cosmic horror is not hopeful.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't get a sense of dread and uncaring universe about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
The opposite, in fact. They were very caring, these gods from...
Right. In Lovecraft, aliens don't come and say, let me help you understand me. I may seem to
understand humanity. That's not their
yeah,
job.
let's communicate.
They'll take your brain out and
right.
They'll understand you.
All right. Any other topics, guys? If you've read The Endless Fall or Mike's book, Hieroglyphs of Blood and Bone, one of the best things you can do for a writer and for the publisher is to leave a review at Amazon. It's very, very, very helpful, and it helps us to continue to publish books, because when people see positive reviews, they tend to buy the book, if they're at all interested. So please do that if you've read the books. We'd really appreciate it, right, Mike?
That's true. I would love more reviews of my books.
Weird.
I know, it's strange. He's an odd duck.
Hey, can I plug one more thing?
Yes.
Do you mind? Very quickly.
No, I don't mind at all.
Well, I just wanted to mention that I'm going to be in. I have a story in Stray Geons that's coming out soon, and
where? I've never heard of this.
What's that?
And yeah. I think it's been a little delayed, unfortunately, due to circumstances beyond our control. But and also I have a story coming out in the next Dark Discoveries. The Dark Discovery story is not in the collection. And the last thing I want to do is a plug. I apologize, but I just want to say this: I'm giving these book plates away for anyone who buys a print copy of Behold the Void. If you
describe what it is for the listeners.
It's a book plate of. It's got like the creature from the cover of my chapbook altar on it, and if you buy the print copy of Behold the Void, you can PM me via Facebook or email me through my website. Send me your address, and I will mail you a signed book plate anywhere in the world to put into your copy of Behold the Void. And I've actually been doing this for about a week, and it's gotten a great response. Unfortunately, most of the response has been coming from places very, very far away. But that's okay. It's totally cool. I have a lot of fans in Australia, apparently.
Yeah, you can spend $8 a piece mailing those out.
That's okay. because I want people to have them. Yeah, so I've been they backfired on me a little bit. So if you live in the United States, feel free to reach out. But feel free to reach out no matter where you live. I'll get it to you. I'll get it to you one way or another.
That's pretty cool. That's a cool thing to do, actually.
It's been the response has been better than I anticipated, and people seem to really dig the idea because I think, and I just kind of thought if it was me, if I was buying a new book, and I was sort of like debating when to buy it or whether to buy the ebook or the paperback, and somebody offered, well, look, if you buy the paperback, I'll send you a autographed book plate to stick into the book. That would sway me. It's a nice collector's item if you're into that. So yeah, so go to my website, pforcossi.com, or find me on Facebook.
All right, cool.
Appreciate the time.
Yeah, no problem at all. So we're giving away this DVD 4-pack from the HP Lovecraft Film Festival, and we're giving away a copy of The Night Ocean. These are hardcovers, by the way. These are beautiful books. If you're not watching, if you're listening later, it's a very beautiful book. Just email lovecrafteasingprizes@gmail.com. I think everybody listening knows the drill by now. Please put either The Night Ocean or, DVD 4-pack, something similar to that in the subject of the email, and whatever you want in the body of the email. If you're enjoying the show, let me know. And next week is our Doctor Who episode, which probably Rick will lead and do most of the talking, right, Rick?
Okay.
Oh.
So, there's Lovecraftian influences in Doctor Who.
I'm gonna have to binge watch it. I've never seen one.
Yeah, if you haven't watched Doctor Who, it is free to watch right now on Amazon Prime. So, yeah, the 2005 on anyway. At any rate, not the classics.
Not the classics. I would say if you wanted to see something Lovecraftian, there's a two-parter from the David Tennant era called The Impossible Planet and the Satan Pit.
Right.
Which is about a cosmic entity who sort of corresponds to the devil who's imprisoned on a planet. And there was a concept that originally was in the first series from the 70s about a pre-human reptile race. And the episodes are from the Matt Smith era, and they're, I think it's The Undying Earth and Cold Blood are the titles.
All right. So we'll use those Lovecraftian influences as an excuse to talk about Doctor Who. So, and then the week after that's Derek Hussey with Hippocampus Press, and then Michael Kelly. He's the guy that's been publishing The Weird, Best Weird.
Very cool.
Best Weird Fiction of the Year, excuse me. Which I think they've done 3 of them. Is that right?
The 4th one's about to come out.
4 is about to come out.
Who edited the 4th one?
I think Helen Marshall's the 4th one.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
right.
Shadows and Tall Trees 7 is about to come out also from Undertow, which is insane lineup of writers.
Okay. Anyway, everyone, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks, guys, for being here. And we will see everybody next week.